All right, so today we're going to talk about Joe Biden's accomplishments as president. Before we do that, I'm going to point out one thing that I know is going to happen. A whole lot of people are just going to see this video in their news feed. They're going to see the caption above it, and without clicking on it or watching the entire thing, they're going to jump into my comment section to tell me how full of shit I am. Now, I realize that's how trolls roll, and that's okay, but so many people have asked me, hey man, what has Joe Biden done as president? I'm just going to talk about a few things here that I consider to be good things that he's accomplished, and you guys can listen if you want to, or you can stop listening at any given point and go find you some link that fits your preconceived notion that helps you sleep at night. It's whatever you want to do. But I do want to start off by saying that Joe Biden entered as the president during the pandemic, a pandemic that Donald Trump completely bungled. How did he completely bungle it? Well, first of all, back in March of 2020, when everything started closing down, he told us not to worry, that it would be over by June. It will actually be over by Easter, he said. As soon as it heated up outside, as soon as it got hot, this virus hates heat, we'll all be okay. He also continuously said that it was a hoax. Even recently in an interview, he pointed out that he still believes that it was probably done just to help get him out of office. So he's always made it about him. He also was on tape talking about how serious and deadly the thing was, but he wasn't going to tell none of us about it. So yeah, the guy completely dropped the ball on it, and that's where Joe Biden enters as the president. When he got here, he passed the American Rescue Plan in response to COVID-19, which sent $1,400 payments to low to medium income families, extended the $300 a week federal unemployment to 9.7 million people. He temporarily expanded the child tax credit and allotted over $7 billion for small business loans and $128 billion for grants for state educational agencies. Now, this next one he did that I think was a really good thing, he passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which a whole lot, Donald Trump encouraged Republicans to vote against this one, but it didn't work because 32 Republicans ended up voting for it. More on that in a minute. But what this bill did was give $284 billion for transportation needs, which includes repairing bridges, roads, public transit, and airports, $65 billion for broadband internet, $73 billion for power infrastructure, and $55 billion for clean drinking water. Now, you got to remember, Trump didn't want this, and he encouraged the Republicans to vote against it. 32 Republicans voted for it, including Lindsey Graham, who went out and got a spray-on tan and dyed his hair blonde just to look like his boyfriend. And Mitch McConnell, he also voted for it. Now, one thing they won't tell you, they love to get you stirred up and bitching about Joe Biden, but if you'll notice, he's passed more bipartisan bills than any president in recent memory. Whether they love him or hate him, they will still reach across the aisle and sign these things and then come out there and talk about how they're going to impeach him and how he's working against you and blah, blah, blah. It's all theater. They're playing you. Just pointing that out. 32 Republicans voted for this, including Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. I know what you're going to do. You're going to call them rhinos. You're going to call them traitors. But this infrastructure bill was a good thing. Good thing it passed. It's going to help us to rebuild things. That's something that's needed. I don't know why in the world anyone would be against us rebuilding the country that we have. But just remember, as much as they love to bitch about him, when it comes nut cutting time, they'll vote along with him. Now, he also signed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. This was one of the first major gun safety bills in decades after the Uvalde shootings. But what this does, and I know it doesn't do everything we wanted. I know it's not the perfect bill. I'll say that right up front. But it does enhance background checks for gun buyers under the age of 21. It requires law enforcement to have time to examine juvenile records, including the mental health records, beginning at age 16. What this bill also did was it gave $10 billion for mental health in this country. Republicans love to blame gun violence on mental health. But every time it comes time to vote for it, they vote against it. They love to blame it on video games, rap music. They blame it on everything. But at the end of the day, they do nothing to change it. When you have a guy like Tim Burchett stand up and say, well, we just can't fix it, that's not a side of the aisle I want to be on. I don't want to be on the side of the aisle with someone who that's their response to my child potentially dying in a school shooting. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. This wasn't perfect. There's a whole lot that could have been better about it. But it's definitely a start, and it's one of the first ones that we've had in a long time. Also, this one was something that a lot of people might have missed, but he also lowered health care and drug costs, which will prevent an estimated 3 million Americans from losing their health insurance and 10.4 million more enrollees from paying more for their insurance plan. It lowered the cost of insulin. No Medicare recipient will pay more than $35 a month. Now, what you got to understand is nearly 3.3 million on Medicare rely on insulin. How many of you people have family members that rely on insulin? Now they won't be paying more than $35 a month. That's something that affects people like us. For all of your culture wars that you love to sit and fight, for all the shit you love to sit and go on and on and on about, that will never affect you, that you can choose. There's so many things you bitch about you could choose to let your children be part of or not. What you can't necessarily choose is how much your loved ones is paying for their insulin, but now thanks to Joe Biden, they're not going to be paying as much. Again, I don't get caught up in the culture war bullshit. I sit and pointed out how much bullshit it is. But I don't sit here and get caught up in things that's never going to affect me. You know, whichever company wants to do whatever the fuck, that's nothing to me. If I don't want to buy the fucking beer, I don't have to. Okay? But Mama needs her fucking insulin. It's just fucking common sense. He also, this one didn't go over well with Republicans, but he canceled up to $20,000 in federal student loan debt. He also signed the Respect for Marriage Act, which will require states that ban same-sex marriage to recognize these marriages. And he has created over 11 million jobs since he took office. Just recently, he worked with Bernie Sanders to guarantee sick days for railroad workers. So I realized, like I said, in the beginning when I made this video, those are just a few of the accomplishments of President Biden that I think are good things. I realize a whole lot of people didn't make it to the 6 minute and 27 second mark. They've already tapped out. They're already in my comment section parroting whatever they've been told to say. And that's fine. But I don't think Joe Biden is near as bad of a president as people make him out to be. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut right to the chase and tell you why I voted for Joe Biden and why I'm going to do it again. I don't need a president to tell me that he's talking for me. I don't need a president that tells me that if they could do this to me, they could do it to you. I don't need a president that gives me trading cards. I don't need a president that puts his face on Rambo's body. I don't need a president that puts his head on a bald eagle. Okay? I don't need a president that constantly sits and bullshits and lies and makes every excuse for everything he's done. You know, Joe Biden allowed Hunter Biden to pay for what he did. He could have easily pardoned his own son. He didn't. He's not up there right now saying, if they could do this to me, they could do it to you. He's not playing that cult leader bullshit. Now, do I like everything about Joe Biden? No, I don't. He's a politician. Yes, he's a career politician. He's been around a long time. He's not perfect by any means. But I'm not necessarily a Joe Biden supporter as much as I am a voter who votes for who I feel at the end of the day will have the best interest of all Americans at heart and not just a certain group of people over here that happens to look like me. And what you got to realize is most Trump supporters look and dress like I do. I can't count the times that I get told, are you a biker? What, that happens to me all the time. No, I'm not. I'm none of those things. I'm somebody who was born and raised right here in Appalachia and saw through the bullshit. I could do a whole video on the bullshit that I saw Mitch McConnell do in my home state where I was raised in Kentucky. I could name so many things that Mitch McConnell did to fuck Kentuckians right square in the ass, but they'll turn around and vote for him every single time because they've bought this narrative that, oh, it's better than a Democrat. Mitch is better than a Democrat. Fuck no, he's not. He's been a cancer on Kentucky my entire life. I was 2 years old when that man took office. He's been fucking us ever since, and he'll continue to fuck us till the day he's gone. I see through a whole lot of shit. Joe Biden ain't perfect, and no Democratic nominee's ever going to be. That's one thing I want to point out to the Democrats. For those of you that gets upset when we decide on who our nominee is going to be, I know so many Democrats, they get real upset if the candidate doesn't agree with everything. Or if there's one little issue over here, well, hold on a minute. I'm not voting for this guy anymore because I found out he's for or against this. Look, at the end of the day, what you got to understand more than anything is our democracy is on the line nowadays more than ever. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans wants to do away with it altogether. They want to install a totalitarian government in place. That is their end game. That is their end goal. Now, you may not agree with everything Joe Biden's done. You may not agree with all the accomplishments I just mentioned. You may cherry pick those things and you may talk about things that was wrong with them. And there probably was things wrong with them. Not saying there wasn't. But when it comes nut cutting time, when you go to vote, your democracy is riding on the line. That's the thing. You've got people like Ron DeSantis coming up, who is nothing more. He's everything that every History Channel documentary that warns you against communism is. That's what they are. So you can sit back and you can pick Joe Biden apart. You can pick out the things you don't like all day long. And I can agree or disagree with you on some of those things. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans are coming for our democracy. And if you want to grow up in the country that I grew up in, you're going to have to, for now, I mean, I don't see, in the foreseeable future, I cannot see myself voting for a Republican candidate. I realize times change. If I'm alive 30 years from now, we may be doing something different. Things may have shifted. But right now, the boat that we're in, we have a party over here that may not be perfect, but at least they have ideas, versus a party over here who wants to install a totalitarian government to only help people that looks and sounds and believes like them, and they want to enforce their religion and their churches on all of us. And that's not what this country was ever about. So you don't have to like this video. You don't have to love it. You can say I'm full of shit all day long. Those were some of Joe Biden's accomplishments. I think he's doing a good job. I'm going to vote for him again, and fuck anyone that don't like it.